morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and choosing to spend your Saturday morning with us. And there can be no better way to start your weekend than by absorbing and learning and participating in this discussion with our esteemed panel today. It's the start of a new year, and if you are a business owner, you would be busy planning your 2023. The world today is digital, and marketing plays a crucial role in the element of scaling up businesses. With the new age entrepreneurs and innovative products and services taking charge, the SME are facing a challenge in coping up with the changing trends in market. The digital marketing space today is crowded, and at the same time, it can be overwhelming for one to cope up with the same. However, we at Action Coach are here to help you. So let's talk business. Let's talk about marketing in 2023. And we are here with an esteemed guest joining us with our coach for an insightful discussion for you all today. So, hello once again. My name is Mansi Chauhan. And on behalf of Action Coach, I welcome you all to our session today. At Action Coach, we are a team of real people getting real results for business owners for the last 30 years. Currently present in over 96 countries, we are impacting lives of more than 30,000 businesses on a weekly basis. And when it comes to growing a business, there can be no better partner than Action Coach. So now, without taking any more time, I would like to introduce you all to the speaker of the day. Our speaker today is an industry stalwart and a recognized name in the marketing world, Mr. Gaurav Mehta. He's currently working and heading the marketing for Zoopy.com and comes with over 20 years of experience and has been helping organizations like Car Yahoo, and OLX scale their business through his leadership and brilliance in the marketing domain. He's been facilitated with awards such as Marketeer of the Year, Power Profile by LinkedIn, and 40 Under 40 for 2 consecutive years. So we welcome him today and are really happy to have him here today with us. And further, to take this discussion further, I would like to also call upon the moderator of this session, Coach Sanjeev Mathur. Sanjeev is a certified business coach with Action Coach and is an ICF certified executive coach holding a PCC credential. He comes with over 3 decades of experience in corporate and coaching industry with about 22 years of experience in senior leadership roles with organizations like Microsoft, Oracle, and Wipro. So with this, I would like to hand it over to Sanjeev to take it forward from here.
So hi Gaurav, great to have you on the show.
Thanks,
Can you hear?
Sanjeev. Thanks, Mansi. Thanks for inviting me.
Fantastic. So I was just thinking, this is one of those rare occasions where I get to ask the questions.
And just the reverse for me also.
Yeah, and it's on a subject that's I've been a marketer. Mansi did talk about all the places that I worked at, but that was all as a sales and marketing professional. But that was dinosaur age marketing. It was like roughly the equivalent of what brick and mortar is today to digital. And I know the principles haven't changed. I know that things used to, the market's demands and things change in the market at the blink of an eye those days. But these days, the blink of an eye is too slow. um, and as in my new avatar as a coach, as a service provider as a consultant to many of my clients, I often wonder how to reach out to them. And with Action Coach, a lot of that work is around the small and medium business owners. So I really want to focus my discussion around that community.
Sure. Understood.
Things change so rapidly in this world, Gaurav. I mean, 1 month you're talking about something, the next month you're talking about something else. I'd really like to understand, from you, where we should be focusing. What are the digital marketing trends to keep in mind for, say, 2023? Most importantly for entrepreneurs who are looking to make an impact in the SMB space.
Sure, Sanjeev, and I resonate with a lot of things that you just said. Right now, this is a fast-changing principle. I'm like, I really think marketing is the fastest and the most dynamic principle for of any business functions that are out there, especially after the digitization of economy, even more so.
Mhm.
But again, I resonate with the fact that principles haven't changed. So you still have to have a great product. You still have to have the right messaging, the right targeting, and the right media channels to reach out to your target audience. But then for 2023, and especially keeping SME and SMB in mind, I think the two or three trends that are going to be really, really interesting to see are how can you actually induce your non-media marketing.
Mhm.
When I say that, um, if I were to say that marketing ka separate P&L, the largest cost on that P&L will be just what you pay to the media publishers, the
Mhm.
Googles, the Facebook, the TV channels, the radio channels, and so on and so forth. So the largest P&L on your marketing P&L is always media cost. And
Mhm.
typically, I've seen SMEs when they start marketing, they struggle with this because the return on investment or return on advertising spend is not very great because the media
Mhm.
costs are going higher and higher on a daily basis. And the audience is getting fragmented. It's not so easy to catch the audience at scale at one place only. So you have to really work
Mhm.
hard to catch good audience at scale, and that too in the most minimum way possible. So one thing, and this requires a mindset shift, that how do you actually market in a non-media environment? So
Mhm.
one of the big things that the SMEs and SMBs can totally focus upon is how to make their content work harder. Um, when I say content, it can be written, it can be visual, it can be short form, it could be social media content. But then if
Mhm.
you would like do great content marketing on any of the platforms, so in any which way which I just mentioned, there's a good chance that you would be able to reach out to the right target audience in the most non paid media way. Let me put it this way.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that helps your ROI and ROS. Like I was reading, अभी right now Mama Earth का IPO का जो हो रहा था, I think they have
Mhm.
filed the DRHP and so on and so forth. And some guy was analyzing that their return on advertising spend is 2.3, whereas the more established FMCG firms are 7 or 8 times.
Mhm.
ROAS is return on advertising spend. So in more clearer terms, if you're spending 100 rupees, if you're getting 2.5 ROAS, that means you're making 250 rupees top line.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's where they are operating as per what I read, a person who went through their prospectus. Whereas the more mature FMCGs are making it 7 to 8 times on ROAS. SMEs and SMBs have seen that they start with low ROAS. I'm like, almost like 1.5, 2 times, going up to 2.5 to 3. I'm like, and that's where it becomes really important that one of the trends that content marketing can help you better your ROAS. It's not that it's going to make you your paid media independent, but then by focusing on content marketing in whichever way I just mentioned, if you're a lifestyle, maybe video content becomes really important. If you're an
Yeah.
automobile, written piece of long format content becomes really important. Product content becomes really important, and so on and so forth. So it depends on
So
which industry.
Gaurav, just, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I may be wrong, but I think it might help if some of these terms like ROS and ROI, uh, if especially ROS, if you could just help people understand how
Yeah.
that
So
works.
as I said, I'm like ROAS is return on advertising spend,
Yeah.
and as I mentioned earlier, like if suppose you're advertising, say 100 rupees, I'm like, if you're
Yeah.
spending 100 rupees in a month,
Mhm.
if you have an ROS of 2.5 times, you would be making 250 rupees top line. So by spending 100 rupees, you're making 250 rupees top
Yeah.
line. So your return on advertising spend is 2.5 times.
Yeah. Thanks.
Um,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, and by doing that, I'm like 150 rupees is where you need to like accommodate your product cost, your people cost, your logistics cost, your other costs. And if 2.5 is too less, then you have to like keep on shifting it up to 2.75, 3 and a
Mhm.
half, depending on your cost of goods and depending on the kind of industry you're in. But then
Yeah.
if SMEs can get to an ROAS of 2.5 times or 3 times on the
Mhm.
advertising, it's a great start. I would say it's a
Mhm.
great start. And by um, to why I was talking about ROAS was because by doing content marketing and by doing paid media marketing, you can keep that as a benchmark. Am I hitting 2.5 times? Is my content marketing helping? Even though my ROAS on my paid media marketing might be 1.5 times, but through content, I'm actually subsidizing that and going up to 2.5, 2.75. That's a
That's great.
territory where the unit economics start to make sense typically for most of the SMEs.
So Gaurav, being in this space myself, I often find it's quite challenging to really figure out how to get the content done.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if you have some suggestions on, or some thoughts on where, what are good approaches to try and get either somebody to create the content for you or to look for content that would be appealing to or compelling for people, say in the next 12 months.
Sure. I'll try to answer that, Sanjeev, and I'll try to bring some industry examples. If you're a high
Mhm,
involvement industry, say
mhm,
baby care,
mhm,
uh, when a new baby is born, the parents are always they're lacking for information, new parents. They would scour the internet to get the right information. And if you look at Baby Center, which is, if I'm not wrong, a PNG site, Procter and Gamble site,
mhm,
babycenter.com, it's a great example of content marketing. What they're doing is, because they know it's a high involvement purchase category, they're
mhm,
making great amount of content in written form, in video form, and so on and so forth. Because when these new parents are typing their Google queries that what's a nappy rash, or why is my child crying at night, and so on and so forth, through that great content and great SEO practices, Baby Center kind of starts coming up in their search
mhm,
results, and they kind of click on it in a non-paid manner because that's all SEO driven, and
mhm,
people consume that content. And obviously, because it's a PNG site, they obviously uh, have banners over there of
mhm,
Pampers and other baby products, and so on and so forth. And that results into transaction also, or increasing brand affinity for PNG.
mhm.
Now, there's an example which is like of a very high nature, of a very big company, or of a very evolved company, but the logics don't change.
Yeah.
If you are in the say wellness category, or beauty category, there's a different content that's required, more visual, more audio visual content. And if you look at it, making like a 10-second tutorial, a 10-second lifestyle video, or a 1 minute tutorial is fairly easy, even for the companies by themselves. It's a very low cost uh, method to get yourself out there. And
Mhm,
then, Sanjeev, another interesting thing, everybody's heard about Chat GPT. Chat GPT is like the buzzword right now.
yeah, the
Uh,
hot new thing.
yeah. But then there are many open source softwares which just help you produce many pieces of content on the back of one big content piece. So suppose you have written like a nice 1 page long written piece of content. There are
Mhm,
many automated open source softwares on the net which can help you craft that into biteable sized content pieces that can go as a part of the product content, your social media content, and so on and
mhm.
so forth.
Excellent.
Um, my wife runs a jewelry startup,
Mhm,
uh, and she does this on a daily basis. There are
excellent. Yeah.
many very cheap subscription based graphic design tools with which you can create great social media content, like Canva
Mhm,
and so on and so forth.
mhm. Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
phones are the biggest laboratory for content creation these days,
Yeah.
but we have to be curious about the tools that are out there.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for enlightening us, and especially me on on this content development and content creation area. Uh, Gaurav, one of the things that a lot of people are focusing on, or would like to, I would imagine, focus on, is things like influencer marketing, or performance marketing and stuff like that. But those are fairly expensive areas. How do you think small and medium businesses could adapt to such mediums of marketing, or is it really worth it or not?
Now, first, I'll get the short answer out. I'm like, absolutely, they're worth it.
Okay.
Especially performance marketing is something that I have a huge amount of trust and faith in.
Yeah.
Even if you're starting from a two people company
Mhm.
perspective, Um, Influencer marketing works for certain categories extremely well, like the wellness, the beauty category, and so on and so forth. I think it works extremely, extremely well over there. The only downside to influencer marketing is mm, how do I explain this in very, very easy terms? Um, the job of a marketer or job of any company, any founder, is to make sure that they um, are not dependent on money to bring growth all the time.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
what I mean by that is that if you say invest money, your business should go from here to here, but then after you stop investing money, it should not come back to the previous level.
mm,
It can regress, but to a level which was higher than the previous level. So you're almost
mm,
like making like step jumps.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Unfortunately, in my experience, apart from a few categories like beauty, wellness, and a couple of other categories like that, maybe food also, uh, influencer marketing doesn't create these step jumps. They give
mhm,
you a growth in the short term, but they also like, as soon as you stop investing, the numbers come back to the previous levels again. So that's not good marketing in my way. You've
mhm,
got growth,
mhm,
but then it doesn't sustain. So maybe apart from few categories, I'm still not entirely convinced about influencer marketing. And that's just my thought. Other people might have different thoughts. But then performance marketing, Sanjeev, is
mm,
something that I think you should start from get-go. Um,
mm, mm,
and performance marketing is not just about short-term conversions, it's also about consumer insights.
mm,
Because performance marketing gives you so many different targeting parameters that you understand key if I'm in the business of say jewelry, like my wife is, she can
mhm,
create two campaigns, and one where she's targeting 18 to 25 first jobber college going girl, and in the other campaign she might be targeting 25 to 34, maybe married, maybe mother of one kid, middle manager, and so on and so forth. And the campaign will behave maybe differently, but she'll also get an insight who's the right target audience because she set the
mm,
campaigns in very defined manner. So
mm, mm.
apart from short-term conversion and like good ROAS, return on advertising spend, as we spoke about earlier, it also
Yeah.
helps you understanding your audience very, very well. So it's doing two jobs at the same time. So performance marketing, be it on Google, be it on ad exchanges, be it on Facebook, be it on programmatic. Programmatic is a little bit difficult for SMEs, but then all the other
Mm,
mediums that I spoke about can be done with very low budgets also, and it will give you results. I'm extremely, extremely confident that it's a great strategy for SMEs and SMBs. Just one point of caution. When you have limited budgets,
mhm,
um, you should not be spraying and praying. Typically,
mm,
how performance marketing works is that once you start a campaign, it takes almost 4 to 7 days for the campaigns to learn, the algorithms to
mm,
learn,
mhm,
and it requires a certain amount of budget to learn. So almost
mm,
suppose if you're investing say 1,000 rupees per day or 2,000 rupees per day to
mm,
start with, in the first 7 days, almost imagine 70-80% of that budget is just for learning, which is the right audience, who will click on my ads, who will convert, who will be a good audience.
mm,
So if you take that 2,000 rupee budget and say कि मैं 500 Google में डाल रहा हूँ, 500 Facebook में डाल रहा हूँ, 500 इधर डाल रहा हूँ, that learning budget is not a good of good scale. So you will not get
mm,
good results.
mm,
So when you start off with even performance marketing with a low budget like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 per day,
mm, mm.
always test out one medium to the fullest, and then say कि, okay, I've understood what this will do. I will keep
Yeah.
on investing this much. Now I'll go to another medium. Typically SMEs and SMBs, they'll spray and pray, and that's the
Yeah.
wrong strategy.
So you're saying focus and follow through. Give it the time it needs to
Yeah,
cook properly, and
yeah, because every medium operates differently.
yeah. And then once you've learned, what your audience is and what their preferences are, you're probably going to be able to do much more targeted messaging.
Yeah, maybe
And
the
more
first
important,
1 month you just say that I'm going to do only search engine marketing, nothing else.
yeah, yeah. And and I like the point you made. We talk to our clients very, very often about this whole concept of test and measure. Don't just go out, spray and pray, put all your money behind something. But uh, uh, you know but Test things out, get to see what's really working for you, and then put your effort and money behind it.
Absolutely.
So Gaurav, that's great insight. I'm just trying to triangulate all this stuff now. If we talked about trying to get as much impact as we can out of non-media kind of. I think you used a term called non-media market in non-media.
Paid media. When I say media, like paid media, I'm using
Paid
media
media.
and paid media interchangeably. Yeah.
So paid media, which probably means that you've got to have some good, some good investments in perhaps SEO and SEM kind of areas. Now, a lot of small and medium businesses are often local, and one of the things that I was wondering is there a way to use things like search engine optimization or marketing to improve online visibility and reach customers in the local area?
Absolutely. If you look at say a Google search page,
Mm-hmm.
apart from the blue links or the SEO content links, they also have maps, local store directories, and so on and so forth. They also have reviews that comes up on the Google search pages. They have phone numbers, all these things. That is more retail driven. So when I was at Car Deco, we used to have a used car um, showrooms all across the country, but in a very hyper local manner. So Gurgaon might have like three of such showrooms because we knew that the radius was 5 kilometers for them. So we need to have like three. So while Car Deco was doing SEO on a national level, but then these stores were doing SEO on a local level. So how strong is your Google Maps directory content? Is your phone number visible? Are you asking people to leave reviews and give you ratings and so on and so forth? Are all your local stores or local businesses mapped on Google links or not? These are because any retail store, and just to give you an example, I bought these glasses 2 weeks back, and I forgot the bill back home, and I was trying to call these guys up from office. So I went on Google and I typed the name of the showroom. Unfortunately, their local listing was very, very poor. So I could not get their phone number. I could not get their phone number. Whereas a store by the same name in US had extremely strong local listings. So I was getting the same store name in US ka all information, but I was not getting the same in Gurgaon. Same for the Gurgaon branch, not branch, the same Gurgaon store that I bought it from. And that's a great example of local retail level SEO done poorly by the shop that I bought from. And on the reverse, I'm like the guy who was in US was doing it beautifully. So it can happen on a local level also, on a retail level also,
Yeah.
Sanjeev, very, very strongly.
No, thanks for that. Gaurav, I'm starting to get some related questions. How would you like to deal with them? Should we do them now, or as we go, or at the end?
I'm in your hands, Sanjeev. I'm like any which way you think pushes the narrative in the manner you deem. I'm absolutely okay if you want to take the questions right now. You want to ask me a couple of more, and then we can.
Thank you for pushing the monkey on my shoulder. I think I'll
No,
just take one.
let's take a few. Okay. Then let's take a few questions if you want.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I have one here that says it's a longish one, but I think it talks about differentiation between direct marketing and branding. I think that's we could take that briefly, but I think the one that's really topical here, it's part of the same question. What are the strategies for tier 3 and 4 cities, keeping SMEs in mind who are hardly on social media? Is there any authentic or strong mechanism that helps us showing our ad only to the target audience, which we select?
Yeah.
So I think let's take the tier 3, tier 4 question. That's interesting.
Sure, and I can answer that from a place of high relevance and I'm like Zoopy, which is into real money gaming. I'm like, our audience is from tier 3, tier 4. And the socioeconomic classes B, C, D. young males. And so I can answer that very, very confidently from personal experience also right now. This is the
Mm-hmm.
most toughest audience to reach out. These are typically media dark audiences. All the
Mm-hmm.
measurement, all the media tools that have been built, be it TV, be it internet, are not catering to this particular audience. So it's extremely difficult to reach out to a tier three, tier four audience because these are traditionally media dark audiences. So you don't know
Mm-hmm.
their trends, their behaviors. They don't have a very high digital footprint. Not high. I mean, they have a high digital footprint now. I'll correct myself, but then they are hard to reach. Let me put it this way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in my experience, what has really worked is local content creators
Mm-hmm.
work really, really well. They understand this audience much better than anyone else does. I'll give you a very interesting example. Like, we are very big in UP, Zupi.
Mm-hmm.
I think almost 10-12% of our business comes from UP.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working with local content creators over there
Mm-hmm.
who are like Bhojpuri singers, content creators who are like talking to the tier two, tier three, tier four audiences, and they understand this audience extremely, extremely well. It's not too expensive because they are not like national level celebrities or what have you. So it's fairly cheap. But then they
Mm-hmm.
also tell me a lot about that audience. Then there are specific content platforms that are catering to this kind of an audience, like Moj, MX Takatak, and all these different kind of social media or OTT, short form video or OTT platforms are catering to this kind of an audience. They work very, very well. um, Transaction related platforms like PhonePe, all these guys, they have a lot of targeting capabilities. You can define how you think tier three, tier four people are. Say a mini phone recharge, like a 200 rupee recharge or 150 rupee recharge. These are typically people from tier three, tier four. They come on different transaction platforms on MyGeo and all, and you can reach out to these guys over there. So it will take some thinking through what
Mm-hmm.
your audience would be doing on digital. They don't have a very defined digital footprint that the current tracking tools give you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then they are there. You just have to work harder. And I just give you 3 or 4 examples how we reach out to these guys.
Fantastic, fantastic. Gaurav, I have another one that often comes up. It's a simple question, but not everything that sounds simple is easy to do. It's a simple question that says, hey, SMBs often hire freelancers to do social media marketing for them. Do you think that's wise, or should they go to an agency?
Uh, Freelancers would be a better way.
Okay.
Um, because it's not that the agency don't have good people. The
Mm-hmm.
agency remuneration model is never going to make sure that they give you the right time that you require. What I mean by that is, like, typically digital media agencies, they take anything between 3 to 10% of your media spends, or they
Okay.
take a fee or a retainer to do your social media marketing and paid marketing. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, an SME is not going to be spending a lot of money initially. So suppose even if you're spending a lakh rupees, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which is not a lot of money in digital marketing, or even 50,000, let me say 50,000. 50,000 would be being spent by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are paying 10%, which is at the higher range of the commission range, that's 5,000 rupees that you're paying to the agency.
Mm-hmm.
That agency is not going to give you the time or the focus that you require. It's as
Understood.
simple as that.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah,
freelancer, yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
You're a big customer for a freelancer, but for an agency, you may not be.
Yeah. मतलब उसका time ही नहीं होएगा. The agency remuneration model itself is so flawed that they won't be able to service you well. Whereas like a freelancer whom you can give like say 10, 12,000 rupees will be giving you 4 to 6 times output and will be working with you.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start of a journey, I would definitely say freelancer who's dedicated on your work. Give that
Mm-hmm.
person a little bit more, but that guy will deliver more results than an agency can. It just nothing else but the agency remuneration model. They won't have their skin in the game with the kind of budgets that an SME will have upfront.
Okay. So there are so that's great. That's great insight. I think makes a lot of sense. There are a couple of questions on budgeting, Gaurav. How should we go about budgeting? What's the how do we decide the per month budget and the follow up strategies and so on? You did cover what it takes to in the initial phases to learn, but what's a good ballpark? Say for instance, in corporates they say 7% is what we invest. 7% of top line is what we invest in marketing, and of that, 35%, 40% goes into digital. But is there some kind of benchmark, some kind of ballpark number that you have in mind?
So more than a ballpark, again, I'll go back to the whole ROAS topic that we were discussing earlier, return on advertising spend. And if we were to marry it with another term called unit economics, I hope I'll quickly touch upon unit economics in 30 seconds. Like if you're selling, say, 10 units of toothpaste, how is your cost spread out over 10 units of toothpaste? I'm like, your people cost, your logistics cost, any kind of cost that goes into making, producing, delivering that particular toothpaste on one unit level. So if you're like 10 units of toothpaste are being sold, and you're spending 100 rupees on logistics, then that means 10 rupee logistic cost per unit of toothpaste. Yeah. And then every other cost item also gets a portion like that on a unit basis. So the first thing that all SMEs should do is look at their unit economics on a single unit basis. What is my cost of goods? So if suppose you're selling something for 100 rupees, yeah. Suppose that toothpaste is being sold for 100 rupees hypothetically, and the cost of manufacturing is 20. So that means 20 rupees is going in cost of goods. All the other expenditure, like your people expenditure, logistics expenditure, and so on and so forth, is another 30 rupees. So that means 20 plus 30 is 50. So 50 rupees goes in cost of goods, people, logistics, everything. Now you have 50 rupees left. Yeah. You will say that I cannot spend more than say 20 rupees on selling this item. So your advertising cost is 20 rupees, 20%. And you say 5% of the goods are going to be returned. So that's another 5% lashed on to your unit economics. So 20, 50, 20, and 5 is 75 rupees that goes in just selling that product. And I'm just giving very broad strokes. So even after doing this, you have 25 rupees left. Usme se aap tax doge, so your EBITDA goes to PAT. So maybe I'm like, EBITDA will be at of 25 rupees and your PAT might be at about, after you pay whatever the taxes, will be 13, 14, 15, 10 rupees, whatever that might be. So that's a good way to do budgeting. What's the right way of apportioning costs? And that's where ROAS comes in. So now if you were to say my return on advertising spend is 2.5 times, that means if you're spending 100 rupees, you're making 250 rupees. So that means 150 rupees is what you are left with to take care of all the other costs. And if you're still left with money, then ROAS of 2.5 times is good to start with. And that's the one way to do budgeting. This is a very unit economics oriented kind of budgeting. On the other hand, an SME says, I've got some seed fund, I've got 1 crore rupee from angels and friends, and I have to grow really, really, really fast. Then maybe your budgeting will be a bit different. You will spend more on advertising, you will spend more on discounting, and your unit economics won't look very pretty. You'll be working in a loss-inducing manner, but then you'll get more people to consume your product. So both ways could be looked at.
No, that's great. I think at the end of the day, the decision is really about what's the money you're going to put behind, or rather, what's the money that's available that you can put behind a specific marketing objective, and that's fair. I have an interesting question here, which I have not heard earlier, but I'll ask it anyway, which is, should traditional businesses invest in content marketing? That's the question. But I mean, in my experience, I've seen a lot of unlikely businesses putting out stuff on video and so on and so forth. You just sort of building their brand, doing that kind of stuff. What's your view on it?
So Sanjeev, depending on the kind of industry you're in, I mean, like, the kind of content that goes out, like you've been in Microsoft, Oracle, and all these are very strong B2B companies, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Even in such a B2B company, content can
Mhm.
play a very big part of pre-sales, um, where you know your CTOs, CIOs, CXOs whom you want to reach in a very targeted manner. You can actually reach out with the right content, and that content
Mm.
could play the role of pre-sales, even in such big B2B behemoths.
Yeah.
I mean, like, content plays a part. So content plays a part in any industry. Depends
Yeah.
the kind of, uh, I mean, like, the kind of content or what your audience is looking for.
Mm.
So short answer to that would be yes, absolutely.
And is there I know it's a fairly straightforward basic question, but the question is that how do I ensure that my ads are seen, my campaigns are only seen by the restricted audience rather than everyone under the sun. Um,
Targeting. So all our
it's
advertising
not targeted.
platforms have very strict, strong targeting parameters. You choose the targeting you want to choose.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think I'm just sensitive on the time. We just have a few minutes left, so I'll ask you one last question, Gaurav. And that question is, what are some of the common mistakes that people make, especially small and medium businesses, in their digital marketing efforts, and how could they avoid them?
So some of the things, I'm like, Sanjeev, we've been talking about, and maybe I'll encapsulate. First thing is your budgeting is wrong.
Mhm.
Um, the second thing is you're spraying and praying,
Mm.
and that's one way to show fire disaster. Um, I think those two are definitely. The third thing is you're just doing. Look, the thing is SMEs won't have a lot of bandwidth. You will have
Mm.
limited people. You'll have limited resources available to you. Uh, just because a bigger company is doing something, it doesn't mean that you also have to do something similar.
Mm. Mm.
You have to make sure that which are the most important high priority items that you can do in the budget and the resources that you have. Concentrate on those, and
Mm.
s-
Mm.
and keep on innovating, optimizing, experimenting within that realm. Don't do 10,000 things. I'm not a
Mm.
big believer of doing 10,000 things. Do five things, but do them really, really well.
Yeah.
That's another thing I've seen SMEs doing. I mean, like, I've seen founders running from pillar to post, running after things which will not give them more than 1 or 2% benefit.
Yeah.
And bandwidth is something that is finite. You have only
Yeah.
24 hours in
Absolutely.
a day. So if you're going to be doing like 20,000 things, you're going to be not focusing on the most important things. Those two, three things would be things. And the last thing that I'll say, are you playing with data? Even at a limited level, data flows in. Are you looking
Mm.
at data and becoming more intelligent about your consumers, their consumer behaviors, the transaction funnels, the return on advertising spends? Are they returning back or are they not? There are many curiosities, but are you actually looking at data to answer those?
Yeah. I think that the data can give remarkable insights that you wouldn't think are possible otherwise. And we use data very often to come up with some pretty startling revelations to the business owners that we work with. One of the most common ones is, so what's your conversion rate? And most of them think it's 60-70%. And when you start looking at the data, it ends up being, in the more traditional sort of ballparks of about 25 to 30%. And that's what happens in a number of cases. So I get that one. But just a related question, and honestly, genuinely the last one for the road. What's your worst digital marketing failure?
Hmm. My worst digital marketing failure. Um, no, I'm like, the good thing about digital marketing failure is that if you're tracking well, then they don't become very big because you can pull the plug. And there
Yeah.
will be many digital marketing failures. I'm just trying to think of the biggest digital marketing failure. Actually, my bigger marketing failures have been in the offline marketing rather than digital marketing. I think digital
Okay.
marketing, because you track them so tightly, they don't
Yeah.
go out of hand ever.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so there's nothing that I would actually think has been a big digital marketing failure for me in the past 14 odd years of being in digital companies. But yeah, brand marketing, there have been many.
Yeah, so isn't that the big thing about digital marketing? It's trackable. It's, you can make corrections almost every week. You don't have to sort of wait for a campaign to go by and a quarter to go by to figure out, heck, we screwed up on this,
Absolutely.
and then take. So I like those. I mean, the focus. What's the one thing you want to achieve, that if you don't achieve, then anything else you do really doesn't matter much? And are
Yeah,
you looking at and are you looking at the at the inflow of the insights that are coming in into your
absolutely.
business by way of data, so you can take corrective action and do all of the things that you can. Well, Gaurav, it's 11:40, and we had a 40-minute slot. So and I know there are lots of people who are sitting with their fingers on their triggers, asking a lot of questions or wanting to ask a lot of questions, but we're absolutely out of time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been insightful. I've learned a lot of new things. I no longer call myself a marketeer because I don't think the brand of marketing I used to do is of any use anymore. The principles are, but all the other things are there. Are there any last pieces of advice you'd like to give people before we call it a day?
Maybe on what you said, Sanjeev, I'm like, you've been in the field for such a long time. I mean, the principles won't get old. I mean, like, the thing is, every 6 months, there's something that's so big happens, such big things happen that even I don't know about those things. So there's never going to be a marketer who will know the full stack from a place of expertise. And it's an art and a science. All the SMEs and all the SMBs, it's if you know your customer and if you know the right way of doing business, marketing is a very, very easy thing to do. Don't get too fussed about ye campaign karna hai, wo campaign karna hai. Just understand how will you actually make your user very successful, and then have ask the right people the right question. They'll tell you the tools. Because tools just keep on changing. So don't come under the stress of like, I don't know this, I don't know this. Even I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of being in this field for 14 years and having trained for this in my MBA. So ye to change hota rahega. I think as long as you know your customer in the transaction funnels, everything else follows. So keep a good check on data, track strongly, and I think that should be a decent enough advice, I would say.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you, Sanjeev. I had a great time chatting with you, and thank you for all the questions that you sent my way.
Thanks, and I'll hand this back to Mansi now.
Thank you, Sanjeev, and thank you, Gaurav, for joining us. It's been great. I think we've had a very nice conversation. Would have been fruitful for a lot of people. You know where to reach out to our panelists here, and you can of course write to them on LinkedIn. And if there are any more questions, you can reach out to them directly as well. I'd like to close
Absolutely.
this here. Thank you so much for joining in, everybody, and to our panelists. And I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.